on the Hawaiian island of Maui. 6 weeks later, the search for the dead and the missing is officially over, but the idea of recovery feels like forever away to those who lost everything. Our KPRC 2 Plus executive producer Tiffani Lupenski is among the many with interests on Maui. This week, for the first time since the wildfire, she traveled to her home in Kanapali, just 4 miles north of Lahaina. She's joining me live this morning to talk about the overwhelming current need. Tiffani, good morning. Thank you so much for waking up very early to join us on KPRC 2 Plus now at 8. As I just mentioned, this was your first time back, and if I recall, you were there days before the wildfire broke out. What was it like returning for the first time?
It was really heavy. You're right, Zach. We were here the week before the fire, had a normal vacation, spent some time with friends and neighbors out here, and then, of course, horrible devastation struck the following week. So to be honest with you, I was dreading coming out here a little bit, seeing the scope of the damage firsthand. It's, the best word I can use to describe it is it's really heavy when you're driving in from the airport on the road into Lahaina. There are 115 crosses lining the road, and I know the death toll has since been downsized, but the crosses were put up a week or two ago. And then there's a police presence and big boulders that they've used to line the road so that people can't pull off on the side of the road and take pictures of the devastation. But just seeing it firsthand, it's massive. I've been a journalist for more than 30 years, and so I know that pictures rarely do something justice versus seeing it in real life. But seeing just the breadth of it, the enormity of it was really overwhelming.
It's absolutely heartbreaking. What kind of support are you seeing where you are for fire refugees at this moment?
There's a lot of support, actually. So as you mentioned, we're here in Ka'anapali, which is about 4 miles north of the heart of the disaster zone. And there is a tremendous amount of activity on this side of the island, helping the fire refugees. Just to the neighboring property next door to us, there's a supply station that has been set up. It's a massive local grassroots effort where people are bringing in donations and people are volunteering to sort the donations, and lines of cars just every day that we've seen pulling up to this donation station to get everything from clothes to blankets to non-perishable food items. And that's just one little spot here on this side. Down the road, just behind me, there's also an enormous makeshift medical center that's been set up, a first aid station where people can get their medical needs met here in the interim. There are Red Cross workers staying at our condominium complex. There's FEMA workers everywhere. So there is a lot of support on the island. People trying to get, supplies and money and cash donations and just anything that people can get. One of the more interesting things, we were down the road last night, actually, trying to support local businesses as much as we can, because there are a few restaurants and shops that are open on this side of the island. And so we've spent a lot of time this week just trying to get a lay of the land and give them as much of our business as we can. And it's a really popular restaurant. A lot of people who travel to Hawaii will know that the Duke's restaurant chain, there's a location just down the road here. And it was really interesting. It was about sunset, and there was a little bit of a restaurant clientele, a lot of locals going and doing what we were doing, trying to support the businesses. But on the backside of the hotel, people were lining up to get free meals that Duke's is offering to the fire refugees right now. And there were children playing on the lawn, and it was just a really interesting experience seeing that last night.
You mentioned eating out, and I understand there's been a lot of debate about when West Maui should reopen to tourism, which, as we know, is the lifeblood of the economy there. What are you hearing, being on the ground, about reopening tourism?
It's really controversial. Like you said, there's a component of people, they're very outspoken here on the island, who just do not think that the hotels should reopen. There are, again, still a lot of refugees living in the hotels around here, and when the hotels do reopen to tourism, they will have to find other places to live, which is very, very hard to do right now. But on the other hand, it's just such a driver of the economy, and we know friends and neighbors who are really struggling with finding jobs and being able to have an income income so that they can try to start getting back on their feet. And getting those businesses reopened is really critical to that effort. We were down at the supply station a couple of days ago, and we ran into a woman who helps run our favorite coffee shop here on this side of the island, and she was getting supplies for her family because she lost everything in the fire as well. And she was talking about how she's going to have to actually pick up her whole family and move to a completely different side of the island because she couldn't find a place to live. And so now she doesn't know how that's going to impact the shop and the other employees at the shop. So it's just, layer after layer of struggle out here right now.
Tiffani, I don't know if you remember this particular moment that I'm about to talk about, but I remember it very clearly. It was the exact moment I think you got word for the first time about the fire. You and I were in the newsroom. You had just come down from a meeting, and we were standing at the producer pod, and you were looking at your phone, and you were emotional. And I can remember asking, "Is everything okay?" And you broke the news to me that there was this fire in Maui, and how you were extremely concerned for your neighbors. It's a close-knit community there. Since you've been back, have you been able to connect with your neighbors?
We have. We had dinner with some of our closest friends, again, trying to service those local businesses and help out in that way. Had dinner with them, we're able to connect with them. I have to tell you, there's a tremendous amount of emotional, mental trauma that people are feeling around here right now. Just, it dominates every conversation. And even in having dinner with our friends, the waitress was participating in the conversation, talking about her experience with the fire. And she shared, I think, what is probably the most poignant story I've heard about the emotional trauma of all this. She was telling us that her 4-year-old daughter, her and her husband have to take the little girl to the bathroom now because the little girl is just afraid to literally be out of sight of her parents. So just the level of domination, of emotion that is going on out here it's been honestly overwhelming.
Yeah, that trauma is absolutely heartbreaking. I know you're a Texas girl, but Maui holds a special spot in your heart. Hawaii is near and dear to you. People watching right now, people listening, how can people give back? How can people help right now?
There are a ton of ways that people can give back, and I'm part of the reason why I'm having this conversation with you is because, I think it's our nature, in life, in the news business, a huge disaster happens, and then, life moves on, and other disasters happen in other places, and the attention goes elsewhere. The need here is going to be happening for months and years to come, and there are plenty of ways that people can help, from everything from the official organizations. I think two of the ones that are doing the most work here on the ground on the island are the Maui Food Bank and the Salvation Army. The Hawaii Salvation Army out here has been tremendous in helping meet organizational large-scale needs. But I actually just learned about this one yesterday, and so I wanted to share this with you all. There's a trio of women here in the islands who really wanted to help with the people who don't like giving to the official organizations as much, and really want to make sure that the donations they're giving are going directly to the families that need it. And so they did a tremendous amount of work to create this searchable, shareable Google document through GoFundMe that has 200, I think it is, lists of families who are in need, who have GoFundMes that people can donate directly to. They've all been vetted, their backstories, how to get the money directly into the hands of those specific families is all in this Google spreadsheet, and you can access it at helpmauirise.org, which we'll of course put on our website later this morning, clicktohouston.com.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. It's times like this, it's times like these that we see people come together and we see that sense of community. We also know too that the need today is evolving, and it won't be the same need that we see in weeks to come. So it's really great to know this and to be able to give back in those certain ways. I know I believe it's 3:13 there right now. Give us perspective on where you're at.
Let me check it's 3:13.
Yeah.
So I'm actually standing on what some people who travel to Hawaii might recognize. It's the top side of a golf course, actually, the Ka'anapali golf course, in between the fairway shops and a condominium complex called the Maui Eldorado. And then behind me is actually the Royal Lahaina Resort. And again, there's a lot of refugees over there, Red Cross workers, FEMA workers. It's been a hotspot activity.
Yeah. Okay, Tiffani Lupenski live for us this morning.